Jai Gurudev and welcome everyone. Today we have an esteemed panel of experts from various fields to discuss a profound words from the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 24. Brahmarparam Brahma Haviha Brahmagano Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. This verse tells us that everything involved in the act of offering, whether it is the offering itself, the oblation, the fire, or the person offering it, are all manifestations of Brahman, and by absorbing oneself in Brahman, one ultimately attains Brahman. To help us understand this verse in its full depth, we have with us a senior teacher at Art of Living, focusing on the deeper meanings of spiritual texts and their application in daily life, a scholar from Vedic Dharma Sanstha specializing in Vedic rituals and their philosophical understanding, an Ayurvedic doctor and food expert focusing on how food can be purified for both the body and mind, a renowned teacher of Upanayanam to discuss the spiritual significance of rituals and initiation, and an expert in sattvic cooking to explain how food prepared with a pure heart and mind aligns with this verse. To begin, can you explain the meaning of the verse in simple terms? Could you share your understanding? Yes, the verse from the Bhagavad Gita emphasizes that everything in this universe is interconnected and ultimately all is Brahman, the supreme divine reality. The reality, the act of offering in a ritual, the food we eat, the fire into which we offer the oblation, and the person making the offering all embody the essence of Brahman. This is a beautiful concept as it invites us to see the divine in every action. In spiritual terms, the verse teaches us that every moment, every action can be a conscious offering to the divine, elevating the mundane to the sacred. When we perform any task with the mindset that it is an offering to Brahman, it leads us closer to experiencing the divine in everything we do. That's an enlightening perspective. How does this verse relate to the traditional Vedic rituals, and why is it so important to see every action as an offering to Brahman? Yes, this verse is central to understanding the essence of Vedic rituals. In the Vedic tradition, every ritual, whether it's a homa, a fire ceremony, or a simple offering of food, is viewed as an act of devotion where the offerings, the fire, and the person performing the ritual are all sacred. The key idea is that by recognizing the presence of Brahman in all aspects of the ritual itself becomes a means of spiritual elevation. The verse teaches that the act of offering is not about a material aspect, but about the consciousness behind the action. For instance, when we offer food to the fire during a ritual, it is not just the food that is offered, but the intention and devotion with which the offering is made. It transforms the material offering into a divine one. The same approach can be applied to every action in life, turning our everyday tasks into opportunities for spiritual growth. Thank you for that explanation. As an Ayurvedic expert, could you shed some light on the concept of purity in food as it relates to this verse? And how does food impact our mind and spirit? In Ayurveda, food is considered to be the primary source of nourishment, not just for the body, but also for the mind and soul. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita emphasize the idea of purifying our actions by offering them to Brahman, and food is no different. Before consuming food, offering it to the divine through a simple prayer purifies the food of any negative energies or impurities. Ayurveda stresses that food prepared with pure intentions by someone with a calm and peaceful mind is far more nourishing than food prepared without awareness. The three impurities mentioned, unclean vessels, food ingredients obtained through unethical means, and impure thoughts during the cooking process, can all affect the food's quality. When food is offered to God, it transforms into prasada, consecrated food, and it purifies both the body and the mind of the person consuming it. That's a fascinating connection between food and spirituality. In the context of Upanayanam, how does the teaching of this verse apply to the spiritual initiation of young students? Upanayanam is a sacred initiation ceremony for young students, marking their entry into formal education and spiritual learning. It's not just a physical rite, but a spiritual awakening. The verse from the Gita beautifully relates to the Upanayanam process, where the sacred thread symbolizes the connection with Brahman. In this ceremony, the child is taught to see every action, every thought, and every word as an offering to the divine. The sacred mantra Gayatri is also a prayer to the divine, and through the initiation, the student learns to engage in life with the understanding that their actions are a reflection of their connection with Brahman. The teachings of this verse encourage the student to develop the consciousness of offering, of seeing everything as a part of the divine play, and to act with purity of mind. That's beautifully put now. Can you share how the concept of sattvic food, which is deeply connected with purity, relates to this verse, and how can we incorporate this into our everyday lives? Sattvic food is food that is pure, fresh, and full of vitality. It is considered food that promotes clarity of mind and calmness of spirit. The verse from the Gita reminds us that every offering, including food, should be done with purity and devotion. When we prepare food with the intention of offering it to the divine, it becomes sacred. In my work as a chef, I emphasize the importance of cooking food with love, mindfulness, and care. Sattvic food not only nourishes the body but also helps to maintain mental balance and clarity. Simple foods like vegetables, fruits, grains, and nuts prepared without excessive spices or heavy oils are examples of sattvic foods. By offering this food to God, whether through a prayer or simply acknowledging its divine source, we purify the food in ourselves. It's about aligning our everyday actions, cooking, eating, and living with the divine intention that the Gita speaks of. When we do this, our food becomes a form of worship and a means of spiritual growth. Thank you. This has been a truly insightful discussion on the deeper meaning of this Gita verse, especially in relation to purity and offering. It's clear that by offering everything, be it food, actions, or thoughts, to the divine, we not only elevate our lives but also align ourselves with the ultimate truth. Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev, today we are diving into a deeply meaningful verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 24. Brahmarpanam Brahma Haviha Brahmagano Brahmanahutam Brahmayava Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. This verse speaks to the nature of offering, the sanctity of action, and the path to spiritual enlightenment, suggesting that every act, whether it's an offering, the fire, the person offering, is an expression of Brahman, the supreme divine. By being absorbed in Brahman through our actions, we can attain Brahman itself. To help us break down the meaning of this verse and its implications for our daily lives, we have gathered insights from distinguished panel across various fields. A senior teacher at Art of Living will explain how this verse can guide our spiritual practice. We also have a scholar from Vedic Dharma Sansthan will offer his perspective on the Vedic interpretation of this verse. An Ayurvedic doctor and food expert will share how food and purification relate to the teachings of this verse. Renowned Upnayanam teacher will reflect on how this verse can be applied to the spiritual growth of students. An expert in sattvic cooking will explain how food prepared with mindfulness aligns with the spiritual teachings of the Gita. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. To start, could you provide an interpretation of this verse from the Bhagavad Gita and explain its deeper spiritual significance? Yes, the verse at its core conveys the concept that everything in existence is an expression of Brahman, the ultimate reality. The verse outlines a ritual where the offering, the fire, and the individual performing the offering are all seen as manifestations of Brahman. This is not just about physical offerings in a ritualistic sense, but also about understanding that every action, thought, and intention can be offered to the divine. When we perform any task, whether mundane or sacred, with the intention of offering it to Brahman, we elevate our action to the level of spiritual practice. This verse teaches us that by cultivating this mindset of offering all actions, we can align ourselves with the divine and ultimately realize Brahman, the source of all creation. That's beautifully explained. How does this verse fit into the traditional Vedic rituals, and why is it important for us to see every action as an offering to Brahman? In Vedic traditions, every ritual from the smallest prayer to grand fire ceremonies emphasizes the act of offering. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita reinforces this by reminding us that everything we do can be an offering to Brahman. The concept of yajna in the Vedic system is deeply connected to this idea in a ritual. The fire represents the divine, the oblation is the offering, and the one who offers the oblation is a devotee. By recognizing that all actions, whether in rituals or in daily life, are offerings to the divine, we transform even the most mundane tasks into acts of spiritual devotion. This verse helps us see that the divine is present in everything and everyone, and through conscious offering, we can experience His divinity. That's a powerful reminder to see the divine in all aspects of life. As an Ayurvedic expert, could you explain how food and purity are related to this verse, and how does offering food before meals purify both the food and the mind? Yes, in Ayurveda, food is not just physical nourishment but also a means to cleanse and purify the mind and spirit. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita that relates food to an offering and oblation into the fire is deeply connected with the Ayurvedic principle of sattvic food. Sattvic food is pure, wholesome, and prepared with love and mindfulness. When we offer food to God, we purify it of the three potential impurities: the cleanliness of the vessel, the ingredients, and the state of mind of the cook. By offering the food, we acknowledge that it comes from a divine source and it becomes a prasad, a blessed offering. This simple yet profound act of offering transforms the food, purifying both the body and the mind, leading to a state of calm and clarity. Food prepared and consumed with purity of heart and mind elevates the person, allowing them to experience a deeper connection with the divine. That's a beautiful connection between food and spiritual practice. Acharya Lakshmi ji, how does this verse resonate with the teachings of Upanayana, especially in the context of initiation and spiritual growth? Yes, in the Upanayana ceremony, the child is initiated into spiritual life with the sacred Gayatri Mantra and the thread of wisdom. This ceremony marks a child's first step toward understanding the divine in everything they do. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita fits perfectly into the concept of Upanayana because it teaches that all actions, including learning and spiritual practices, should be offered to Brahman. The sacred thread worn after initiation represents this constant connection with the divine, and the Gayatri Mantra is a prayer to Brahman. As students of life through Upanayana, we are taught to see every moment as an offering and to live our lives in alignment with the divine. This approach brings a deep sense of purpose and discipline into every action, helping the individual grow spiritually and live a life of virtue. Thank you for that insightful explanation. From the perspective of sattvic cooking, how can we apply this verse to our approach to preparing and consuming food with mindfulness and purity? Sattvic cooking is all about preparing food with intention, purity, and mindfulness. When we cook with a calm and peaceful mind, and when we use fresh, wholesome ingredients, the food becomes a medium to nourish not just the body but the mind and spirit as well. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita teaches us that food, when offered with love and devotion, becomes sacred, just as in a ritual where the oblation is offered to the fire. Food becomes an offering to Brahman when prepared with the right intention. By chanting a prayer before meals, we acknowledge that the food is a gift from the divine. This helps purify the food, removing any impurities that might affect the mind. Eating sattvic food after offering it with gratitude elevates our consciousness and keeps us in a state of mental clarity and spiritual awareness. Thank you. This has been such an enlightening discussion on how the Gita's teachings on offerings can be applied to food, rituals, and daily actions. It's clear that by viewing everything as an offering to Brahman, we can transform our lives, our meals, and our spiritual practices into a sacred journey. Thank you for the opportunity to share this wisdom. May we all live with this awareness, offering every action to the divine and experiencing the oneness of all creation. Jai Gurudev.